Man, I love this series. The chess match back and forth is just great. Of course, now Dallas is up 3-2. A home team has not won a game yet, so based on that, we're going to be going to a game 7 and we'll see. But anyway, Dallas, to me, they finally got the series back under control because they answered the Clippers going small with Boban, which of course did not work at all in the previous game because it just seemed like they weren't ready for it. But this time around, they had the zone, which still resulted in some Clippers threes, but it at least slowed down the Clippers. I mean, there were a lot of plays, especially in the first quarter, where they would get going to the rim, and then because of Boban's presence, they would think about it, they would pass it out. There was one play where like Reggie Jackson just threw it behind his head to, I think it was like Terrence Mann or something. You had a missed Batum layup. You had Kawhi take a pull-up mid-range that didn't go in. And I mean, sure, it wasn't the story for the whole game, and eventually they had to pull him when they tried to put him back out there in the fourth, but it clearly slowed the Clippers down a bit because they were rolling with so much momentum. They just had so much confidence about, we can just do whatever we want. We can go inside on these guys. We beat them off the dribble. There's no rim protection, and Boban definitely changed that. Now, that said, Boban also messed up Dallas's offense at times because there were a few plays where he was just in the way, and Luka had to adjust to that, or he had to force a pass into Boban, and the Clippers got pretty good at sending multiple defenders to then swipe the ball away. But still, whether I don't know what Boban's plus minus was for this game. To me, he made a positive difference, if anything, because he just kind of made the Clippers be like, oh crap, we can't just do whatever we want right now. The other big adjustment Dallas had was they went to Dwight Powell, and he gave them just a little something extra that they didn't have in this series, which was more offensive rebounding, a guy who's all about rolling to the basket. He grabbed some tough defensive rebounds as well. I think he gave him a little more rim protection, even if he's not really known for that. And they also had Dorian Finney-Smith defending Kawhi a little bit more, and there were a couple plays late, including one big one where Kawhi, he was on a screen, and I think he was going at Porzingis, and Finney-Smith was able to just kind of steal the ball out of Kawhi's hands, as basic as that sounds. He just kind of swiped it from him, and there were a few plays late like that for the Clippers where it was either somebody lost the ball or a Maverick just kind of swiped in there, and that was the other adjustment. I've now named like 7 adjustments that Dallas made. Was it just felt like they were more aggressive in going after the ball handler. And sure, it did lead to some threes. Reggie Jackson went crazy in this game. But I think what it also did was it kind of just forced the Clippers again to just not be able to do whatever they wanted. And as a result, I mean, Kawhi and PG, I don't think either one of them went off in this game. I mean, their offense late a lot of the time was just attack Porzingis and screens. There was one play where I think Terrence Mann set a screen for Kawhi or whatever it was, because the matchups got kind of messed up as this game was going up and down. And again, they got in on him, and they were lucky that there were just some misses here and there. Granted, I can't remember all of them, but still, the Clippers offense definitely at times when Boban was out there, the rim protection slowed him down a little bit, and then the Mavericks just did a good job of just kind of swiping at him pretty much. To talk about, for the Mavs, I mean, besides the plays where Boban kind of got in the way or whatever, and Tim Hardaway Jr. hitting that insane 3 with a minute left or whatever it was, Luka, the coverage on Luka in this game on the screens, they didn't really give him the switch as much, and at least I don't think so, at least on Zubats. And we also had Kawhi defending Luka a little more in this game. Still wasn't a whole lot, and he did give them the switch on that a few times. But to me, the main thing was that they dropped, and then they hoped that the initial ball handler or defender on Luka would get back to him to sort of crowd him. And the way that Luka countered that to me was he would get the other guy on his back and just put him in jail, basically. That happened a lot with Rondo, and when it was a wing player, whether it was Morris or one of those guys, it just seemed like Luka did a better job of just turning on the jets to get away from him. Now, that said, look, Luka was going crazy with the step backs and the turnaround jumpers and the weird pull-up hook shots and all those things he does. He had a couple big bank shots. He had one pull-up bank shot late. And the Clippers just gave him too much of a runway. But I will also say, Luka was settling a lot in that fourth quarter, and I hope that the free throws are not getting in his head. I don't know how many free throws he attempted in this game, but it did seem like a little weird just how he wasn't willing to just take the extra step or two to the rim in the fourth quarter. Now, also because of Powell being out there, actually, it might have been Kleba, but there were definitely some times when the spacing was a little cramped down there. I get that. So we'll see. That could be a little storyline. It might not be at all. The other thing to speak on was it felt like in this game, the Mavs were just kind of like, listen, Porzingis, you're just going to have to stay on there, man. Like, we're not going to adhere to anything that you want in this series, and whether Porzingis likes that or not, I think it's better for them overall. I mean, it just spaces the floor out, and when he goes into those post-ups, I don't think it's that efficient of offense, which is why I don't know if Dallas really wants to bother with that anymore. But that does lead to the next thing, which is, can Dallas survive when Luka is not in the game? I mean, I remember in the fourth quarter, there was one like fadeaway on the baseline by Hardaway, which, I mean, it was only 2 points, but it was huge because it was like, oh my God, they actually scored without Luka in there. I mean, your best bet is Hardaway, Porzingis, and Jalen Brunson, and you try to get Brunson downhill, and you just hope to play it at a stalemate until Luka comes back in the game. That, and you perhaps push his minutes into the 40s if you think he can handle that. And again, Hardaway, he had that super big three. Porzingis also had a huge three when he was in the corner, and Luka just threw a bullet pass to him. And there we go. Now the Clippers, some more adversity for the Clippers. Game 6 in Dallas. We'll see. Having home court has not mattered for the home team in this series yet. The adjustments for the Clippers, I mean, I would like to believe that they have the Boban offense figured out. They did get a lot of open threes off of Boban being in the game. Yeah, they also had less attempts at the rim. So when the Mavs are trying to do their whole, close out and keep it to where if Boban has to close out, it's just to someone in the corner, like the area that he's already kind of in. And hopefully for their sake, they can find ways to deal with that. They also had a couple of cut plays for Batum while they were in that zone. So that's that. I think the Luka defense, it needs to be more aggressive. They went to a double team, or at least a couple double teams in the fourth quarter. I think it makes sense to not do it all game, but you can bust it out here and there. And, they have had some success in little bits of this series. Luka has, of course, killed them besides the last game, which even then, that seemed to be more of a neck thing for him. But they've had little moments here and there where when they've stayed home on the shooters in the corners, they've actually done a pretty good job of like freaking Luka out for half a second. I think Terrence Mann needs to play more. I mean, he had that play where he drew the offensive foul on Boban. There was also at least one possession late against Luka where Luka was a little hesitant and he threw it to Porzingis, and then it resulted in a turnover because PG was all over Porzingis as well. Yeah, I think Terrence Mann just has a bit of a presence out there. He also had that play late where he could have passed it off to Batum he chose to pass it to Batum where I felt he actually had a layup. As far as the Clippers' last play for Kawhi, not that good of a play, but I guess it's a shot that Kawhi can make, so for what that's worth. Yeah, man. The one thought that I would have is could the Clippers defend Luka? It's like, could you go back to what the Spurs did against the James Harden, Mike D'Antoni Rockets that one year, where they just played drop coverage, dared James Harden to take mid-rangers? I'm not really sure, because the obvious is Luka is very willing to take mid-range jumpers, and he's amazing at them. And it's not just those, it's the weird scoop shots and all that stuff. But maybe there is some version of that to where you don't bring the extra help and you turn it into a 2-versus-2 game, and you don't give them the switch, and you just kind of see if you can simplify the game down to that. And it would help if Kawhi is mainly the guy involved in that. Now, you need Kawhi on offense, so okay, but I'm trying here. Like maybe some version of what the Lakers have done against Devin Booker, not in the last game, but in parts of the series against Phoenix, where it's a little bit of a drop, but not a super drop, and then the other guy just kind of stays in the same area as the dude, right? The differences there are, well, the Mavs centers can shoot if Kleba's out there, or if Porzingis is the guy at the 5. But still, the reason I say that is because for as good as Luka is on the step backs, does he really attempt like pull-up threes that often? I don't know if he does. It might not be the most comfortable shot the guy can attempt. And so maybe you could just freak him out a little bit if there's somebody behind him and someone who's in a little bit of a drop coverage. I'm just spitballing here. They're not stopping Luka. They're just going to have to hope he has a bad game through his own stuff. So, yeah. The other thing is just maybe more Rondo, because I just feel like the off-ball movement is still better. Remember, there was one specific play where Rondo was out there. Kawhi went right into the post, and then PG started running like baseline. And it was just like, oh, this seems cool. And then it was right back to the, let me just try to create something out of nothing, Clippers offense. The other thing, too, is if you're getting a bad shooting night from Rondo, then it might not matter if the other guys move more when he's out there. So anyway, that'll do it.